Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Deku Mitsuki Katsuki Part 4. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. And also go support the TALESPINNER69 for writing that awesome fanfic. Let's start this video. Well guys, Kaminari remarked as he turned to face Mina and Shiro, it looks like we're going to go be seeing Kirishima in the infirmary as he's being treated for mushroom lung. Both of the other Baku squad members nodded in grim agreement with their electric friend as they and the other 1A students, as well as the 1B students, saw the match up for the first fight of the second round of the tournament between UA and Vulcan High. Looking down in the arena where they all saw Kirishima and Kanoko approach the arena platform, Yayoi Rozu, Hagakure, though you can't see it, and Aoyama wore particularly worried looks for their red spiky-haired classmate. This is totally unfair. Hagakure huffed in a tone of clear complaint, there's no way that Kirishima can win this. He won't be able to even get close to that creepy girl before she spams her mushroom spores and makes mushrooms grow inside of his throat and lungs. Nodding in grim agreement, Yayoi Rozu said, as painful as it is to realize it, you make a very excellent point, Hagakure. Kanoko took me out in next to no time, and I had vastly more options than what Kirishima is going in with. I doubt that he even has any defenses that might be able to mitigate at least some of his disadvantage. Aoyama said nothing, holding a clenched fist in front of his mouth, the middle knuckles under his nose, he could only let out small, mild moans of worry for his manly yet highly unfashionable classmate. Looking over to where Yayoi Rozu was talking to Hagakure and Aoyama, Tokoyami said, I have to concur with what you said, Yayoi Rozu. As I have said before, Kanoko is nothing short of a terror to face in single combat. Turning his attention to down in the arena, where Kirishima and Kanoko now stood opposite of each other on the arena platform, the bird-headed shadow wielder considered the looks of both competitors before turning back to regard Yayoi Rozu and company. However, Tokoyami continued, I believe that Kirishima may have better odds of winning than what we are attributing to him. Do you think that Kirishima actually has a chance of standing up to that creepy girl in their match, Tokoyami? Hagakure asked, her tone sounding mildly incredulous. Gently shaking her head, if the plastic headband she wore was any indication, the invisible girl remarked, I'm sorry, but I just can't see it. What makes you think that Kirishima might win? Body language, Tokoyami explained casually, the body language that Kanoko was giving off when she went in to fight Yayoi Rozu during the previous round was confident and, dare I say, carrying an underlying hint of savage mercilessness. Looking back down into the arena, the bird-headed shadow wielder said, her body language when she went in just now to prepare to go against Kirishima clearly showed that she is cowed. I saw her fidgeting a little, and I even saw what seemed to me to be a nervous expression on her face. Do you think Yayoi Rozu began as she turned to face Tokoyami, trying to put pieces together in her head, that Kanoko is afraid of Kirishima? Nodding curtly in agreement as he crossed his arms over his chest, Tokoyami replied, that is the same conclusion that I drew myself, yes. Well, the rich girl remarked, well, Kanoko did say that Kirishima shouldn't have been underestimated in his fight against Itsuka, which made a lot more sense when he actually won against her. It's reasonable to assume that Kanoko has a lot of respect for Kirishima's skill and power as a hero in training. Turning back to look down into the arena, Yayoi Rozu said, it's not too much of a stretch to connect the dots and assume that Kanoko has such respect for Kirishima because she's afraid of how tough he is. The others who Yayoi Rozu was talking with all nodded in agreement as they and the other UA students looked onward as Namuri got off of the arena platform and hopped onto the little stage off to the side where she would make judgments from for the match. Alright then, Namuri said as she raised her whip up in the air, begin. Activating his quirk as he took a running start towards Kanoko, Kirishima had his right fist pulled back, ready to deliver a devastating punch across the mushroom girl's face. My only shot at beating her is to try and hit her hard and fast before she has a chance to do to me what she did to Yayoi Rozu, Kirishima thought somewhat worriedly as he ran straight towards Kanoko, paying no mind to the flustered, somewhat trembling air that Kanoko was giving off, if she can use her quirk before I get close, then I'm. Kirishima's thought process, as well as everything else that was going on in the entirety of the stadium, all came to a screeching halt because of what happened just a few seconds after Namuri called for the match to begin. Kanoko, while holding her left arm up in front of her in a sort of protective gesture, shot her right hand up into the air as high as she was able to get it before she shouted as loud as she could, I surrender. Kirishima, who was about halfway towards reaching where Kanoko stood, stopped right there and then, frozen mid-stride with a mildly dumbfounded expression on his face. The spiky red-haired boy said, confusion clear in both his tone and expression. Kirishima wasn't the only one a student surprised into a state of dumbfoundedness by Kanoko just up and declaring that she was surrendering. In fact, pretty much all of 1A, especially Tokoyami, Hagakure, although you couldn't see it, Yayoi Rozu and Aoyama, all shouted, EHH. In total, perfect unison. A vast majority of the rest of the audience also joined in on that shouting of confused surprise. It goes without saying that Namuri was likewise surprised, although she, like some other pro heroes that were at the stadium, was able to keep her cool. Walking over to the arena platform, the 18-only pro hero said to Kanoko, "You're surrendering." The confusion, with a mild dash of concern in Namuri's tone, could not be missed or mistaken for anything else. "Yes," the mushroom girl replied with her gaze looking to the ground on her left, looking away from Namuri. The pro hero Midnight continued, still unsure of what exactly was going on. "Are you sure that you want to?" "Yes," Kanoko replied again, still looking down and away from Namuri. Kanoko still had her left arm in front of her and her right hand raised up as high as possible. With a mildly resigned sigh, Namuri nodded in understanding. Raising her whip up, Namuri declared while giving her whip a good crack, "Kanoko Komori has surrendered. The winner is Ejiro Kirishima." Kanoko, somewhat sheepishly and fidgeting a bit all the while, quickly got off of the arena platform and went over to where Pony was waiting off to the side with Izuku and Bakugo, both of which looked confused by the mushroom girl's actions. Looking over to the arena platform, Bakugo saw that Kirishima was still standing there, still frozen mid-stride due to the sheer surprise over what happened. With a resigned sigh, the explosive teen walked over, picked up his friend as if he were a life-size cardboard standee, and simply carried him off of the arena platform, telling him that he was going to be in the way of the other matches for the round. "Look on the bright side, Kirishima," Bakugo said as he got him over to where he was waiting with Izuku. "You're still in peak shape for your round 3 fight." In an interesting twist of luck, the second match of round 2 saw Izuku fight against Yuki Hoho, the son of Vulcan High's principal. Like he did in his first round match, Yuki hopped and bounced around for the entirety of the match, trying to keep an agility advantage against the green-eyed boy. However, Izuku has fought similarly mobile opponents before, which gave him something of an idea on how to counter the dapperly dressed conceited blonde boy. Using his aforementioned previous experience, Izuku was able to quickly get up close to Yuki thanks to full cowling, before giving Yuki a one-for-all powered punch square in his gut, sending him crashing right down into approximately the center of the arena floor. Izuku actually only used 3% of one for all, as he's trying to conserve some power for later matches. As he saw Yuki laying on the arena platform struggling to get up before collapsing right back into laying down, Izuku knew that using less than his standard 5% was a good call. Yuki Hoho has been defeated, Namuri declared after taking a quick look at the conceited blonde boy and knowing that he was out for the count. Giving her whip another good crack, the 18-only pro hero continued, "The winner is Izuku Midoriya." Izuku's win drew a lot more cheers from the audience than the previous match, due to the latter's lack of any actual fighting. As Izuku looked around, both awed and humbled by all of the people cheering for him, he heard Yuki say where he laid on the arena platform behind him. "Don't go thinking that Vulcan High is set to lose the tournament overall, simply because you were able to pull out a victory against me." Turning around to properly face Yuki, Izuku saw that, despite his beaten condition, the conceited blonde boy looked as smug and self-assured as ever. "Granted, defeating me is nothing short of a miracle, I'll grant you that," Yuki remarked to Izuku as medics came over to the arena platform with a stretcher to put Yuki on so that they can take him to Recovery Girl for treatment, "but there are still 2 of my fellow Vulcan High students left in the running." With a hint of sinister smugness entering his expression, Yuki added, "including the one who will win it all in the end." As the medics put Yuki on the stretcher, the conceited blonde boy, never taking his eyes off of Izuku, said, "There is no way that anyone that is still in the tournament can defeat Vulcan High's ace in the hole." As he saw the medics carry Yuki away on that stretcher, Izuku turned and walked off of the arena platform, going over to where Bakugo, Kirishima and Pony were still waiting. To Izuku's interest, a few of his classmates from 1A, those being Yayoi Rozu, who was previously knocked out, Todoroki, Tenya and Uraraka, were watching things from up close. Likewise, a few of the Class 1B students, those being Itsuka, Ibara, Kanoko, all of which were previously knocked out, and Ryuko, were there to watch things up close as well. "Yeah, we all got the okay to watch things from here," Uraraka explained to the green-haired cinnamon roll as she gestured to herself and the others that weren't in the tournament, either anymore or not in the first place. "We wanted to cheer you and the others on as you work your way through the rest of the tournament." Nodding in acknowledgement, Izuku replied, "Thanks Uraraka. I'm sure I speak for Kaken, Kirishima and Pony when I say we all appreciate it." There was still a hint of uncertainty in Izuku's expression, which didn't go by unnoticed by the students from 1A and 1B. Gesturing to Izuku with his right hand, Tenya asked, "You seem troubled, Midoriya. Is there anything that has you concerned?" Sighing in a mildly troubled tone, the green-eyed boy said, the last thing that Yuki said to me before he was taken off to see Recovery Girl. He said something about how Vulcan High was slated to win in the end because of what he calls their ace in the hole. Folding her arms over her chest, Ibarra gave an unamused humph before saying, it's clear that he was talking about that devil boy that Vulcan High brought with them to the tournament. There is no way that he could be talking about that boy with a speed quirk. Gulping nervously, Pony said with a hint of stuttering in her tone, that Akuma fellow is very much frightening me. Despite her not having a completely firm grasp of the Japanese language, the half-American girl was able to get her point across to her fellow schoolmates well enough. Pounding his right fist into his left hand, Bakugo said, like hell that devil bastard or his 2-bit extra friend will win the tournament. Turning to face Pony, Bakugo continued, don't let that bastard give you cold feet. We're from UA. There's no way in hell that some extras from some extra hero high school can kick our ass. Now that was one hell of a manly pep talk, Baku bro. Kirishima declared, giving his explosive friend a double thumbs up. Pounding his hardened fists together, making a sort of clanging sound in the process, Kirishima continued, and there's no way that I'm going to let anyone, not even you, take me out of the tournament without a fight. Not that anyone else in the group had seen it, but Kanoko smiled as she gave a small nod of approval to what Kirishima said. Clapping his hands together, Izuku said, hey everyone, the third match in this round is about to be announced. True to what the green-eyed boy said, the Jumbotron screen was flashing the profile pictures of the remaining tournament competitors before slowing down. As there's only 4 people yet to go in round 2, the people fighting in the third match will determine who will be fighting in the last match by process of elimination. It was because of this that, when the flashing of profile pictures stopped, thus showing everyone who was fighting in the third fight of round 2, the group of UA students that were down in the arena for a closer view of the fights were concerned. Takeshi Kanemaru vs Mitsuki Bakugo. It seems that you'll be fighting against that speed quirk guy from Vulcan High, Bakugo, Tenya remarked to his explosive classmate, which means that the last match of this round will be putting Pony against that worrisome Akuma fellow. Hearing that she was by default slated to go up against Akuma Giratina made Pony squeal a bit out of a mix of fright, worry and fear. Scoffing as he looked over to the arena platform, Bakugo said, it doesn't matter who faces who. Like hell that any of those Vulcan High bastards will win in the end. Giving the explosive teen a somewhat serious look, Ibarra remarked, you're forgetting that the devil boy gave me a very sound defeat. As evil and horrible as he is, I don't think that he should be underestimated. And you're forgetting that Pony already kicked the ass of one of those Vulcan bastard extras, Bakugo pointed out in return. Turning around to walk to the arena platform, which Takeshi from Vulcan High was also approaching, Bakugo said as he made his way to his next fight, she'll be going 2 for 2, just like I'm about to do myself. As he watched Bakugo make his way over to the arena platform, Izuku thought about how far Kaken has grown as a person. In recent events, he became comfortable with the idea of letting his friends and allies rescue him, something that would conflict with the old Kaken's pride if it meant that his team will score a win. And now here Bakugo was, actively trying to bolster the confidence of his schoolmates in the face of something that is leaving a fair number of them on the unsettled side of feelings. Granted, Izuku acknowledged that Kaken reacted poorly upon learning that he, Izuku, was dating the explosive teen's mother Mitsuki, and Kaken promised fierce retribution upon the green-haired cinnamon roll. But that's to be expected, given Kaken's overall personality and the fact that that damn nerd Deku was dating his mom. Izuku hoped that the explosive teen would be settled down a bit by the end of the tournament. As Bakugo had promised, he defeated Takeshi with relative ease. Sure, the mobility that the Vulcan High student had gave him an edge in the beginning, but Bakugo improvised a move where he spun in place while releasing a steady flow of explosions, creating circles of explosions that panned out like ripples in the water. One of those rings hit Takeshi, knocking him over onto the arena platform's ground. As the speed quirk boy laid prone, Bakugo rushed him, firing off a number of explosions right into Takeshi, quickly beating him into defeat. As Namuri announced Bakugo as the winner of that fight, the explosive teen turned around and walked off of the arena platform and over to where his class schoolmates were waiting. Smirking a bit, Bakugo said to the other UA students, "What did I tell you? That fight was very exemplary, Bakugo," Tenya remarked as he and the other UA students that were in that area to watch the matches from a better angle applauded the explosive teen's victory. They weren't the only ones cheering for Bakugo's win, either. The vast majority of the audience in the stadium was cheering and clapping for Bakugo's win. As Bakugo was soaking in the praise he was getting from his class schoolmates, Namuri called out from where she stood on her little stage off to the side of the arena platform, "Can I have Pony Tsunatori and Akuma Giratina come onto the arena platform? Your match is about to begin very shortly." Looking over to where Akuma was already walking over to the arena platform, Pony gulped nervously, unable to help the uneasy feeling in her stomach. I'm worried about that guy, the half-American girl remarked aloud, loud enough for her class schoolmates that were standing in that area with her to hear. As she took a step forward, Pony felt a hand laid down on her left shoulder from behind her, prompting her to turn around to see who it was. To Pony's surprise, it was Bakugo that had stopped her. You already showed one of those Vulcan High bastard extras who is boss, Bakugo began, the serious look on his face, actually helping to reassure the nervous Pony to some extent. This one shouldn't be any different. Giving Pony's left shoulder a reassuring couple of pats, Bakugo said with a self-amused smirk on his face, now go get him. Pony's nervous frown slowly morphed into a small but thankful and reassured smile, before she nodded once in thanks to the explosive teen. Pony turned back around and proceeded to head up to the arena platform. After Pony was out of immediate earshot, Bakugo heard Izuku say from behind him, "Wow, Kaken. That was really nice of you to reassure Pony like that." Turning to face the green-eyed boy, Bakugo merely scoffed. "It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth to see some 2-bit extras from some 2-bit extra hero school try to put on airs around us from UA is all," Bakugo replied. "Those bastards need to learn better." Bakugo's response only made Izuku smile more. Bakugo had, in his own way, more or less said that it wasn't any problem to help his fellow UA students. Pony and Akuma stood across from each other on the arena platform as Namuri was telling them how the fight was supposed to be run. The half-American girl was still worried about having to face the Satanist of Vulcan High, especially after she saw how brutally he defeated her classmate Abar in the previous round. But that Bakugo fellow from One had told her that she had no need to be worried about her match, that she not only had a shot of winning, but that she was going to win. Pony honestly had no idea why her classmate Monoma insists that Bakugo, as well as the rest of 1A, is the equivalent of dried squirrel poop. "Alright then," Namuri said from her mini-stage off to the side as she raised her whip up into the air. Giving it a good crack, the 18-only hero called out, "Begin." Pony immediately jumped back a bit to get some distance from Akuma. Quickly firing out 4 horns from her head, which rapidly grew back in next to no time, Pony fired a barrage of the matter satanic opponent, while keeping another 4 floating at her sides, 2 per side, as support or if she needed to lob a few of the matter opponent. Akuma quickly dropped into a 3-point landing position as he punched the ground with his left fist while shouting, "Hellfire Wall." A wall of black flames erupted from the ground in front of Akuma, shielding him from anything that was trying to come at him from the front. As such, 2 of Pony's horns rammed into the wall of black flames, immediately dropping to the ground upon making contact, as if hitting the wall caused Pony's remote control of those horns to falter. As for the other 2 horns that flew at Akuma, they curved around the wall of black flames to try to come at Akuma from his sides. Quickly getting up from his position, Akuma spun around to his right, grabbed the horn coming from him at that side out of the air, and, with his momentum, continued to spin until the horn he grabbed stabbed into the 4th and final horn before ramming both horns into the ground, causing them to shatter. Pony was an even mix of surprised, shocked and worried that her opponent had been able to so easily foil her attack like that. Aiming her head to where Akuma was standing, Pony fired a pair of her horns to fly right at him. Unfazed by the half-American girl's attack, Akuma said, "Devil's breath." He instantly spewed a torrent of black flames from his mouth, which went on to intercept and incinerate the horns that were flying at him, causing them both to fall to the ground in burning masses. As he was breathing his black flames at Pony's attack, Akuma held his hands in front of him in the same gesture that he had them in when he cast the attack that he used to defeat Abar in the previous round. Sure enough, black flames began emanating from his hands before going on to engulf the both of them. Once his devil's breath was done destroying the horn projectiles that Pony had just tried to lob at him, Akuma yelled, "Blazing pentagram." Just as she had seen during Ibarra's fight against Akuma, Pony saw a mass of black flames in the shape of an upside-down pentagram in a circle fly from Akuma's black flames engulfed hands and right at her. Acting quickly, Pony jumped to her right to get out of the way, but 3 of her 4 horns that she had floating around her for support were struck down by the unholy attack. The Pony's further struggle in the fight, when she landed in her new position that she thought was safe, a blast of black flames immediately erupted around her, engulfing both her and the last remaining support horn that she had. As Pony cried out in pain, the UA students that were standing off to the side cried out for Pony, either to express worry for her safety or to shout for her to not give up. For crying out loud, that 2-bit bastard extra does his shopping at that one edgelord retail store in the mall. Bakugo yelled as he cheered for the half-American girl to not give up here. "There's no way that some demon wannabe should be able to kick your ass." As the black flames that were engulfing Pony died down, Akuma ran in, intending to rush his opponent in the effort to end the fight here and now. However, a single random horn came flying at him, making him jerk out of the way to avoid that horn stabbing or impaling him. He avoided the desperate attack for the most part, but the tip of the horn was still able to inflict a grazing scratch wound on the outer side of Akuma's right thigh, making him snarl in pain. As Akuma recovered from the surprise attack, Pony ran up to him and, with her left leg, delivered a side kick that struck Akuma on the right side of his torso, right under where his right arm would normally hang, and forcefully pushing the Satanist back a bit. Akuma winced in pain slightly when the half-American girl's right hoof struck him on the side of his torso just a few inches under his right armpit. After he recovered, Akuma looked at Pony, who had just a hint of confidence in her expression now. "So, there are some among your number who can fight back," the Satanist of Vulcan High said in a neutral monotone that had an underlying hint of barely piqued interest. Conjuring his black flames to form the shape of the number 666, Akuma threw that mass of black flames at Pony as he shouted burning mark. Pony quickly jerked to her side to dodge the attack, which flew past her on her right and went on to harmlessly slam into a wall that surrounded the arena and kept a good, safe barrier between the arena and the bleachers. Due to her view not being fully on Akuma, Pony was unable to react in time before he used his Hellburst attack, once again engulfing the half-American girl in an eruption of black flames. As that attack was still burning Pony, Akuma was quickly getting ready to throw another blazing pentagram the moment the black flames engulfing Pony went down. Those flames went down, and Akuma quickly threw his prepared attack at Pony, striking her with pinpoint precision and making her cry out in pain again. After the flames of that blazing pentagram attack flickered out, Akuma rushed Pony. Getting immediately in front of her, Akuma grabbed Pony by her throat with his left hand and lifted her up one-handed, inspiring feelings of dread, fear, worry and even horror in the UA students that were watching. Pony tried to get her opponent to let her go, both of her hands on Akuma's left forearm, but she was finding trouble in drawing up the strength and energy to get out. As his opponent struggled in vain to get out of his grasp, Akuma aimed the palm of his right hand so it faced Pony's torso. Black flames flared out and engulfed Akuma's right hand, billowing sinisterly as Akuma, with an evil look of mercilessness in his eyes, held nothing back as he used one of his super moves to attack the helpless Pony. Hail Satan! An explosive torrent of black flames burst forward from Akuma's right hand, causing them to burn and engulf the half-American girl. The scream of pain that Akuma's attack got out of Pony was nothing short of horrific, sending blood-curdling shivers down the spines of many who were watching the fight. All of the UA students that were watching the fight called out in worry for their class schoolmate, with some of the girls even crying as they looked away, unable to bear looking at the horror that was seeing one of their own being burned by the devilish black flames. Right around when the blasting torrent of black flames Akuma ceased, Pony's grip on Akuma's arm that was holding her up went slack, her arms falling to her sides. Pony's eyes were closed, a look of horrified pain on her face. She was still breathing, but when Akuma placed her back on her feet and let go of her neck, Pony fell over right away, clearly beaten into unconsciousness by her opponent's satanic attacks. As Pony laid on the ground on the arena platform at Akuma's feet, Namuri hopped off of the little stage that she was standing on, got onto the arena platform, and dashed over to take a quick look at the 1B student. After the 18-only hero got a quick look at Pony, letting out a mild sigh of relief in the process, Namuri straightened herself back up before holding up her whip and saying, "Pony Tsunatori has been defeated. The winner is Akuma Giratina." Many in the audience were shocked by the match that they had just seen. There were even a few random people in the audience that were booing and jeering at the Satanist of Vulcan High. Akuma paid those small-minded people no mind as he simply turned around and walked off of the arena platform, never looking and seeing the medics load Pony onto a stretcher to take her off to see Recovery Girl. As they saw their half-American class schoolmate carted off on that stretcher, the 1A and 1B students, both those in the bleachers and those in the arena to see the matches up close, were all stunned into shocked silence by the horrific brutality that Pony had just been put through. Even the students that normally always had something to say did not utter even a single word, as they could not even fathom the match that they and their fellows had just watched. Thankfully for them, since round 2 was over, there would be an intermission that would allow them to gather themselves and, for Izuku, Bakugo and Kirishima, prep themselves for round 3. A round where, due to who was left in the tournament, 2 of the 3 1A boys would face each other, while the third of their number would square off against Akuma. The prospect of having to face the Satanist of Vulcan High mildly worried one of the boys, while causing great worry to another. As for the third boy, facing Akuma was something that he wanted more than anything right now. Izuku, accompanied by Uraraka, Tenya and Todoroki, was in one of the hallways in the stadium, getting some drinks from a vending machine. As the 4 friends were getting their drinks, Izuku covering the cost of Uraraka's drink for her, they were met up by Izuku's mom Inko and Bakugo's mom Izuku's girlfriend Mitsuki. Throwing her right arm around Izuku's shoulders to drag him into a hug that pressed the side of Izuku's face into her breasts, Mitsuki said, "Hot damn, Izuku. That was one hell of a beating that you gave to that gay little elf that you fought. Way to go for getting past round 2, babe." The ashy-haired woman then proceeded to playfully noogie her much younger boyfriend. Mitsuki may be expressing things in her own way, Inko began, trying to be tactful in the face of Mitsuki's tactlessness, but she's still expressing what we both came here to say. You did a very good job at getting past round 2, Izuku. Congratulations, sweetie. Thanks, Mom, the green-haired cinnamon roll replied, thank you as well, Mitsuki. Both adult women were caught by surprise by the lack of enthusiasm in Izuku's tone. Looking at the green-eyed boy, both Inko and Mitsuki saw that his spirits were very clearly down. As a matter of fact, Izuku's friends that were with him also looked to be in low spirits, even Todoroki, who normally didn't change much in terms of his expression. Letting go of Izuku, Mitsuki gave him, as well as Uraraka, Todoroki and Tenya, a serious yet sympathetic and understanding look. You kids are still unsettled by that little devil prick and how he more or less tortured that magic horse girl, huh? The ashy-haired woman asked, getting nods in the affirmative out of all 4 of the UA students. I honestly have no idea what Vulcan High is thinking, Inko remarked, her tone clearly sounding disappointed, accepting a clearly villainous student like that. Does that school even do background checks before accepting their students, or do they just accept every kid that comes in with a flashy powerful quirk? And to make matters worse, Todoroki commented to the adult women, either Midoriya, Kirishima or Bakugo will have to fight him in round 3. This drew worried gasps out of both women, with Mitsuki immediately throwing her arms around Izuku and pulling him into a hug, as if she was trying to protect him. The way that Mitsuki pulled Izuku in like this resulted in her, unknowingly of course, shoving the green-eyed boy's face right into her breasts. You mean to tell me that there's a chance that my bae here might have to fight that little devil prick in round 3? Mitsuki snapped, clearly sounding worried. Giving Mitsuki a curious look, the dual quirk user remarked, I know that you and Midoriya are now an item Mrs. Bakugo, but shouldn't you also be concerned about your son? Scoffing indifferently, Mitsuki replied, oh please. I bet the Katsuki would actually relish the chance to get into a fight with some asshole that has a powerful quirk. Knowing him, Katsuki might even be praying to whatever god that might listen to let him be the one to fight that little devil prick in round 3. Nodding a few times in confidence, the ashy-haired woman went on, that son of mine has gotten into worse. Trust me. Todoroki, Uraraka and Tenya all looked like they were considering Mitsuki's words and were likewise finding validity in them. Izuku, when he finally was able to get out of Mitsuki's hold on him and finally breathe, also nodded a bit in agreement as he heard what his older girlfriend had said. Hell, Izuku and Bakugo had to face friggin' All Might during the first term final exams. And they passed alright. Granted, they passed said exam via escaping, which was one of the pass conditions, mind you, but given that both boys were roughed up a bit by who was at the time the #1 hero and symbol of peace before said escape, they both got a taste of what All Might could do. Izuku had all the confidence in the world that Akuma's power pales in comparison to what All Might had before he had to step down and retire from being a hero. If both Izuku and Bakugo could take a taste of the power All Might had and still go on to pass, then the green-eyed boy felt that either of them could handle a 1v1 against someone like Akuma. And Kirishima was one of the tougher students in the 1 and 1B classes, so if he was the one paired to fight the Satanist of Vulcan High in round 3, he should be able to do more than well enough. Looking Mitsuki right in her face, Izuku said, you got a point, Mitsuki. I'm certain that if he were paired up to fight Akuma, then Kaken will have no issue with. Out of my way, Grapehead. THWACK. Ow, my little Mineta. Izuku and the others all heard what was clearly yelling coming from Bakugo and Mineta coming from around the corner. Curious, the 6 of them all made a dash to turn that corner. When they all turned into the hallway to see what was going on, they saw Mineta laying on his side on the floor, covering his hidden treasure with both of his hands. While Bakugo stormed off down the other end of the hall. Pained, squealing moans escaped from the infamous pervert of Wana as he laid on the cool tile floor of the hallway. Looking up at the 6 people who found him, Mineta squeaked out in pain. Bakugo looked like he was crying, so I asked him what was wrong. Without warning, he gave me a swift kick to my little Mineta. Shakily pointing his right index finger in the direction Bakugo stormed off in, Mineta continued, I think he's going that way if any of you want to try talking to him. Izuku, Uraraka, Tenya, Todoroki and Mitsuki all proceeded to move to go after Bakugo, but they were stopped when Inko said something. Excuse me, young man, the full-figured woman began in a kind yet curious tone as she addressed Mineta, but did you say that Bakugo looked like he was crying? Bakugo, Tenya said in a tone of disbelief when he and the others all realized what Inko was trying to get at, was crying. Crossing her arms over her chest, Mitsuki remarked, it's not like that brat of mine to cry for no good reason. The barest hint of concern entering her expression, the ashy-haired woman said, I think that me divorcing from his dad has finally gotten to Katsuki. That, Izuku began, or maybe Kaken is just as upset as the rest of us by how badly Pony was beaten by that horrible fellow from Vulcan High. Clapping his hands together, the green-eyed boy said, we ought to go check up on him. Izuku, with Uraraka, Tenya and Todoroki all following him, ran off in the direction that Bakugo took off in. Mitsuki would have done so as well, but she was held back by Inko, who told her to help her with getting some help for Mineta. Mina and Shiro looked on in mild concern as they watched Bakugo repeatedly punch the doors of a cabinet in the break room that they were in, angrily screaming bloody murder all the while. It was on this scene that Kaminari walked into the break room, carrying a shopping bag that clearly looked like it was holding a large plastic bottle of some drink. The electric quirk user was going to say something when he entered the room, but all words failed him, just as they had done for Mina and Shiro, upon seeing what Bakugo was up to. After a few awkward seconds of silence, Kaminari dared to speak up. Bakugo. Upon hearing Kaminari speak up, Bakugo immediately stopped punching the ever-loving hell out of the cabinet's doors, before turning to face him. A bit unsettled by the clearly upset look on the explosive boy's face, Kaminari somewhat unsurely reached into the shopping bag he was carrying, pulling out a 64-ounce bottle of Almide, a popular brand of sports drink. The bottle that Kaminari had was watermelon flavored. Giving the large bottle of sports drink, he got a little shake as he held it up for Bakugo to see. The electric quirk user said, "I got the biggest bottle of Almide that I could find, just like you said. I hope you don't mind watermelon flavor." To the surprise of Kaminari, as well as Shiro and Mina, the explosive team visibly calmed down. "Thanks, man," Bakugo replied, a noticeable amount of sincerity in his tone, as he calmly walked up to Kaminari and took the large bottle of sports drink from him. Unscrewing the lid on the bottle, Bakugo said, "I actually like watermelon flavor. The only flavor that I really can't stand is grape, but I would even put up with that right now." As 3 of the 4 members of Bakugo's squad watched him down that large bottle of sports drink, Shiro remarked, Wow Bakugo. You must really be thirsty." "Actually, dude," Kaminari began when he turned to face Shiro. Bakugo said that sports drinks really help him a lot, due to how his quirk works. Right when Bakugo finished off the sports drink bottle, Mina was admittedly rather amazed that Bakugo drank so much so quickly. The explosive team went to throw the now empty bottle away, as Kaminari continued saying to Mina and Shiro, he said that he wants to be as ready as possible for round 3. Both Shiro and Mina nodded in understanding, with Mina saying, "That makes sense." Counting Bakugo, there's only 4 people left in the tournament. Involuntarily shuddering a bit, as if she was frightened to her very core, the pink-skinned girl added in a mildly unsettled tone, "And that villainous devil guy from Vulcan High is one of them." "He's going down," Bakugo said suddenly, prompting his squad that was with him to all turn to face him. "That devil bastard is going down," the explosive team continued to swear. "I don't care if it's because I kick his ass in the 3rd round, or if I kick his ass in the final round, after both Kirishima and Deku are knocked out." Clenching his right hand into a fist as holding it up in front of him, Bakugo said, "He's going down, by my hand." Mina, Shiro and Kaminari all exchanged looks with one another, surprised to see this kind of a display out of Bakugo. Mina said, "What if he faces either Kirishima or Izuku in the 3rd round, and they knock him out? Then I'll kick the ass of whoever did that." The explosive teen swore, "Keep in mind, Pinky, that regardless of who I face in the tournament, I'll be the one who's going to stand at the top in the end." Turning to go for the door, Bakugo said, "Now if you guys will excuse me, I have to go use the restroom." The explosive team then left, leaving his squad alone in the break room as they looked around at each other, mildly unsure looks on their respective faces. Izuku, accompanied by his friends Uraraka, Todoroki and Tenya, as well as Izuku's girlfriend Mitsuki, who had rejoined Izuku's group after Inko forced her to help tend to Mineta, failed to find Bakugo before they all had to go back to the arena for Izuku to take part in the tournament and for the other UA students to watch from the side, and the bleachers for Mitsuki, who would rejoin Izuku's mom Inko because the 3rd round was about to start. The students in class 1 that was in the arena during round 2 was back to where they were standing around. The 1B students that had joined them, however, were all absent. According to Todoroki, who got it from Ryuko, the 1B girls, yes, all of them, all went to go see Pony in the infirmary. Even after she was treated by a recovery girl, Pony was still in no condition to come back out and watch the remaining matches. As such, they would be able to watch the round 3 matches on a TV in the infirmary. "Alright, folks." Hisashi announced on the intercom from where he and Izawa were both commenting on the matches, "Sorry for any delay, but now we're ready to begin the semi-final round of the UA vs Vulcan High tournament. Alright, let's see who we have for round 3 fight 1. At that prompting, Izawa pressed a red button on the console he was sitting at, which made the Jumbotron screen quickly flash the profile pictures of the 4 remaining competitors in the tournament. The flashing began to slow down somewhat, then it eventually stopped on 2 faces, the boys who would fight each other in the beginning of round 3. Deku Majiratina vs Katsuki Bakugo. Alright, ladies and gents. Hisashi said excitedly over the intercom, "We have two boys that have been rampaging throughout the tournament thus far, going head to head against each other. Who will come out as the winner in this mix of black flames and explosions?" Down in the arena, Bakugo pounded his right fist into his left hand, a gesture that Izuku, who stood a good few feet away from Bakugo, could literally feel, as his savage expression made him look like someone who was very eager to commit mass slaughter. The lip-curled snarl that the explosive team had for a smile at that moment was a clear sign that Bakugo was nothing short of absolutely ecstatic that he was getting to face Akuma. Turning to face where the other UA students down in the arena stood, Bakugo said while pointing to Izuku and Kirishima, "It looks like you and stupid hair just got off really easy, Deku." Turning to face the arena platform, Bakugo continued as he proceeded to walk towards his next match in the tournament. "Now, if you two, half and half glasses and round face will excuse me, I'm going to go shove an explosion right up that devil prick's ass." As they watched the explosive team go off to face his third round opponent, Izuku, Uraraka, Tenya and Todoroki were all unsure what to think. Sure, Akuma had soundly beaten Ibara in the first round, and they all highly doubted that they could ever get the image of what Akuma did to Pony during the second round out of their minds. But this was Bakugo, someone with just as potent and powerful of a quirk and just as savagely violent as the Satanist of Vulcan High that they were talking about. The only one among their number off to the side of the arena platform who knew what to think was Kirishima. "Hot damn." The spiky red-haired hardening boy said in an excited tone, "Now that is some downright manly confidence. Baku bro is totally going to kick that guy's ass." Crossing his arms over his chest, Kirishima continued, "And from what I got from that girl that surrendered to me in round 2, getting that devil guy as his opponent is just what he wants." "Excuse me?" Izuku asked, his expression and tone both surprised and curious as he and the others turned to face Kirishima. "Yeah," Kirishima proceeded to explain, "the girl that I faced in round 2, I'm sorry, but I don't remember her name right now, told me that while she and the other girls in her class were on their way to go see Pony in the infirmary, Bakugo stopped them in one of the hallways for a couple of moments." Flashback. From Kanoko's point of view, she, as well as Itsuka, Ibara, Yui, Satsuna and Ryuko, who were all on their way to go visit Pony in the infirmary during the intermission between rounds 2 and 3, all watched as Bakugo started talking to Ibara. "Hey, Vine Hair," Bakugo began, "you're a Christian, right?" "Yes," Ibara replied with a small nod in the affirmative. A hint of mild confusion entering her expression, Ibara continued, "I should have made it obvious. But that's beside the point. Why do you ask about my faith, Bakugo?" Pointing his right index finger straight up, the explosive team kept his gaze on the devout Christian of 1B. "Can you tell your boss that I want to take a crack at that devil prick from Vulcan High?" Bakugo replied, then before any of the 1B girls could stop him, the explosive team turned around and walked away, leaving them all confused. Flashback over. "And that about does it from what I was told," Kirishima remarked to Izuku and the others as he wrapped up his story. An assured look on his face, Kirishima went on, "We don't have to worry about Baku bro, guys. He's as tough as they come, and he's more than ready to face that devil guy in their match." Turning to face Izuku, the spiky red-haired hardening boy said, "By the way, dude, you better not sandbag me in our match." Izuku, realizing that he would by default be paired to fight Kirishima, nodded affirmatively in response. "Don't worry, Kirishima," the green-haired cinnamon roll replied, "there's no way I'm holding back. Kakin would probably hurt me if he thought I was trying to go easy on someone in a fight, even if it's not him that I'm fighting." Giving Izuku a hearty clap on the back, Kirishima said, "Now that's what I'm talking about, dude. Aw man, I'm already riled up for our match, and Baku bro's fight will only get me even more excited for when the two of us get to go at each other, Izuku." As they watched the show of friendly competition and good sportsmanship between their classmates, Uraraka, Todoroki and Tenya couldn't help but smile, their minds put at ease by the friendly display. However, all thoughts of that nature was going to have to wait until the next match. With their eyes, as well as those of Izuku, Kirishima and practically everyone else watching, either live in the stadium or from a TV screen somewhere, as was the case for all of the Class 1B girls save for Pony who was still out of it, all turned to the arena platform. They all watched as the first match of round 3 was about to begin. This next match is between Mitsuki Bakugo of UA and Akuma Giratino of Vulcan High. Namuri declared to the audience, her whip raised up high, as she was officiating the start of the match between the two powerful and violent boys. "Now then." Giving a good crack with her whip, Namuri exclaimed, "Begin." Using his Blast Rush turbo technique, Bakugo quickly closed the distance between him and Akuma, wasting not even 1 second after their match was officially started. Akuma's eyes widened a bit in alarm due to the speed and explosiveness Bakugo had in getting up to him. Acting quickly, the satanic hero in training threw up a hellfire wall, hoping that his opponent was either too stupid or too reckless to avoid ramming right into the wall of unforgiving flames. Unfortunately for Akuma, Bakugo was actually among the smartest of the students in not only his class, but among the combined lot of 1A and 1B. Acting quickly, the explosive teen threw his hands forward and released a few explosions to fly back a bit, just enough to avoid ramming right into the hellfire wall. Standing at a safe distance away, Bakugo immediately began creating a sphere of light between his hands. Stun grenade. Bakugo yelled as the sphere of light he created exploded out into a large-scale flash, casing a blinding light over the entirety of the arena platform. Akuma was barely able to avoid being completely blinded by the explosive flash conjured by Bakugo. Even so, he was still low on defending himself at that moment. It was a moment that Bakugo gleefully took advantage of, taking aim at Akuma right before he unleashed an AP shot aimed right at Akuma's gut. It was by sheer instinct that Akuma sensed the attack flying right at him, and said instinct allowed him to dodge an attack that was strong enough to pierce right though solid concrete. A human body, naturally, would be made into Swiss cheese if struck by such an attack. Scoffing in annoyance when he saw his AP shot had missed Akuma, Bakugo proceeded to fire off an AP shot. Autocannon, firing off numerous multiple AP shots. Sure, they were all weaker than the standard, but they would be able to hit a target many times in quick succession. Also, they weren't powerful enough to turn humans into Swiss cheese, so Bakugo was able to avoid the potential trouble that came with grievously wounding his opponent. Not that, given who he was fighting, Bakugo would actually mind doing that right now. Akuma was getting annoyed, with said annoyance further fueled by the 3 or so hits he took from Bakugo's AP shot. Autocannon. Acting right away, Akuma threw a burning mark right at the explosive teen, who dodged it by propelling himself up into the air with his explosions. Seeing Bakugo as a sitting duck while in the air like that, Akuma threw a blazing pentagram at the airborne Bakugo, who blocked it with another stun grenade that casted more of that damn blinding light all over. Landing right back down on the arena platform, Bakugo used AP shot. Autocannon again, striking the Satanist of Vulcan High multiple times. As he tanked the hits, Akuma could tell that Bakugo was still directly in front of him, judging by the quality of the attack that was hitting him many times. Taking aim in the appropriate direction, Akuma unleashed a devil's breath that went on to strike Bakugo in his left shoulder, marking Akuma's first successful attack against the explosive teen. Fair. Bakugo scoffed, more pissed than anything else. Lucky shot, you devil asshole. Quickly brushing away the small, flickering black flames that were still on the area of his left shoulder, Bakugo quickly threw a number of regular explosions right at Akuma, causing blasting damage that covered a wide area of the arena platform, with Akuma himself taking a few of those explosions. Sure, they only scored grazing hits at best, thanks to Akuma's quick acting when it came to dodging, but he still took those hits, and, unlike with most others that Akuma ever got to go up against in a fight, Bakugo was actually able to go toe-to-toe with him. The Satanist of Vulcan High even felt that a good number of pro heroes would have trouble standing up to the explosive teen in single combat. For the first time in as long as he could remember, Akuma was actually starting to worry about an opponent that he was facing. Akuma quickly spewed a devil's breath aimed right at Bakugo, and, while that was going on, he prepared to fire a burning mark. As Bakugo dodged the devil's breath, he ended up taking the burning mark to his gut. While that momentarily stunned him, Akuma conjured a blazing pentagram that he threw at Bakugo. The attack that he took from Akuma barely stunned Bakugo for a brief few seconds, and when he recovered, he was able to handily dodge the blazing pentagram. When Bakugo then immediately proceeded to go right for him, Akuma quickly aimed his right hand, which was engulfed in black flames, with the palm facing forward, right at the incoming Bakugo. When the explosive torrent of black flames that was Akuma's Hail Satan attack started flying right at him, Bakugo quickly raised his hands and took aim with his Hotzer impact. Bakugo's super move went off then hit Akuma roughly around the same time that he himself got hit by Akuma's unholy attack, the very same attack that was used to previously defeat Pony. One boy was engulfed in black flames, while the other boy was engulfed in explosions. Everyone in the stadium who was watching the match was shocked by the sheer power, in both quantity and quality, that the two boys were so casually lobbing at one another. There was further gasps of worry coming from those on UA's side when the explosions that had engulfed Akuma began to simmer down, revealing that Akuma, despite looking moderately injured, was still standing. Meanwhile, the black flames that were engulfing Bakugo were still going strong. Seeing this, Akuma smirked in self-amusement, figuring that he had at last got the explosive teen beaten. To Akuma's shock, as well as the shock and surprise of everyone watching the match, Bakugo rushed out of the black flames, an enraged look of determination on his face. Coming right up to Akuma, Bakugo raised his hands up to that his grenade gauntlets were both aimed right at the satanic hero in training. Akuma, given that he had an upfront view, went wide-eyed with shock when he saw and subsequently realized what his opponent was going to do. Bakugo's grenade gauntlets each had a pin sticking out of them that, when pulled, allowed Bakugo to unleash a massive explosion from said gauntlet. The source of these explosive blasts come from the fact that Bakugo's gauntlets allow him to store his sweat, which is the source of his explosions that he triggers all the time, so that he could unleash a massive blast whenever he felt like it. Anyone who wore one of those gauntlets could technically do this, as Izuku did when Bakugo had him use one during their final exam match against All Might. But that is beside the point. The point is that this time, there were strings tied to each of the grenade gauntlet pins, with Bakugo's left hand gripping the right grenade gauntlet's pin and vice versa. With a flourish, Bakugo instantly pulled on both strings at the same time, as such pulling out both pins, so that he could unleash the entire contents of both gauntlets, both of which were his max capacity, right at Akuma at point-blank range in a brand new super move that the explosive teen had been working on. Big Bang Attack. The truly massive deafening explosion went off, shaking not just the entirety of the arena, but a fair portion of the stadium as a whole, making everyone in the audience cry out in surprise. Smoke and blasts engulfed the entirety of the arena platform, and the wind force that was kicked up by Bakugo's big move just now was so potent that Izuku and the other one, a student standing off to the side to watch the matches up close, had to hold their arms in front of their faces in an attempt to have some cover. Kirishima even activated his quirk for additional protection. The attack that Bakugo had unleashed was so massive that it took close to a minute for everything to die down, so that people could actually see what was going on down on the arena platform. Standing there where he was before he attacked Akuma at point-blank range was Bakugo, the barrel ends of both grenade gauntlets broken, with a few pointy jagged shards going outwards. The explosive teen was also clearly hurt as he tried rolling his shoulders, as if to get them to not be so much of a bother. It was while Bakugo did this that the smoke and blasts that were obscuring Akuma died down, and Bakugo saw to his shock that his satanic opponent had thrown up a hellfire wall to act as a shield to protect him. Right as Bakugo started snarling in rage over his big move not actually doing anything, the hellfire wall went down, and Bakugo saw to his immediate relief and elation that Akuma's last-second defense did only half its job at best. The quarter or so of Akuma's tank top that was around the area of his left shoulder was now gone. There were cuts and bruises all over Akuma's arms, as well as a few on his face and some over the exposed part of his torso, and Akuma's right arm even looked like it was dislocated, as Akuma had his left arm raised ever so slightly, but the right one just hung there uselessly. There was also the fact that Akuma was very clearly winded and that he was on the verge of going down. Refusing to let up and deciding to take the bull by the horns in this case, Bakugo ran right up to Akuma and slugged him under the right side of his ribcage, making the Satanist of Vulcan High cough up a little bile. Bakugo then raised his right hand up and swung a backhanded fist attack at the side of Akuma's head, shattering what was left of the right hand grenade gauntlet against the right side of Akuma's head. Bakugo's last attack had the result of sending Akuma sprawling over onto the ground of the arena platform. As Akuma laid there prone, clearly in no condition to get back up, Namuri got off of the little stage that she was standing on off to the side, hopped onto the arena platform, and went over to check on Akuma. After a couple seconds of getting a quick look at Akuma, the 18-only hero nodded in confirmation, as well as let off a bit of a satisfied smile. Raising her whip up into the air, Namuri announced as she cracked her whip, "Akuma Giratina has been defeated. The winner is Mitsuki Bakugo." The audience let out a roaring applause that was almost as deafening as Bakugo's double gauntlet-fueled attack. Bakugo's fight just now was the most potent fight in the tournament yet, with so many moves and so much raw power being thrown around. Looking around at all of the people who were cheering for his victory, Bakugo, for once in his life, actually didn't care that he was being praised for his power. All he wanted was to kick Akuma's ass, and he had done just that. However, the explosive teen figured that all of the people that were watching wanted a good show, wanted something to cheer for. As such, Bakugo did something to give the crowd what they wanted. He raised both of his fists straight up into the air as a sign of his victory. Despite not being in the arena to watch the fight live, the Class 1B girls watched a match between Bakugo and Akuma on a TV that was in the infirmary. Pony, who had barely woken up after her treatment from Recovery Girl, only saw the very tail end of the fight, where Bakugo smashed the remains of one of his damaged gauntlets against the one side of Akuma's head and knocking said Vulcan High student down. As such, the half-American girl was awake and able to join her fellow female classmates in cheering over Bakugo's win. "He actually beat that scary guy," Pony remarked, amazed that Akuma, who had gone through the tournament so easily thus far, was actually beaten in a hard-fought battle. It was very clear that Pony was relieved, as well as a little elated, to see the Satanist of Vulcan High finally go down in the tournament. Watching on the TV as Bakugo raised both of his fists right into the air, the half-American girl said, "Explosion boy from one is really strong." Barbara nodded in agreement with her classmate before saying, "I for one am glad to see that the Devil Boy has finally been defeated, as he should be. It seems that Bakugo's strong desire to be the avenging angel set to take the Devil Boy down has paid off." Pony remarked in a confused tone, turning to face her religious classmate. Turning to regard Pony, Ibarra explained, right before the girls and I came in here to keep an eye on you as you rested, we were stopped by Bakugo. With a hint of amusement entering her expression, the devout Christian said, Bakugo, in his own way, asked me to pray to God to let him fight the devil boy. Turning to regard the TV that was playing what was going on in the arena during the tournament, Ibarra said, it's clear that God answered that prayer and allowed Bakugo to take the devil boy down with righteous fury. Clapping Pony on the back gently, Itsuka said, I just figured that Bakugo was really upset seeing you getting practically tortured in your fight with that villain guy. I mean, you were rushed here to be treated by a recovery girl, so it goes without saying that a lot of us were worried about you. Looking back to the TV, the Class 1B representative continued, it's just that Bakugo had both the power and the chance to kick that villain guy's ass. Hey, Bakugo looks pretty banged up, Setsuna remarked as she looked at the TV, you think that he'll be brought in for treatment? Knowing him, Yui began, and given that he looks like he can still walk, Bakugo will probably insist on coming in for treatment on his own. The 1B girl saw on the TV screen that Bakugo was talking to a few medics that came over to check on him. Surprisingly, the explosive team calmly nodded in understanding, and even a little bit of thanks, as he followed the medics off of the arena platform and into one of the corridors that led into the various hallways of the stadium, presumably to go be treated by a recovery girl. A few moments after Bakugo followed the medics out of the arena, Pony looked around at her friends that were with her while she was recovering in the infirmary. The half-American girl noticed that something was off, so she proceeded to ask. Hey girls, Pony began, do any of you know where Kanoko is? Oh, the instant Bakugo was declared the winner of his match against that villain guy from Vulcan High, Ryuko began to explain, Kanoko got up and left the infirmary. When I asked her about her suddenly getting up, she explained that she wanted to go watch the next match out in the arena, rather than watch it from here on the TV. With a look of wonder on her face, Ryuko added, I have no idea why Kanoko was so insistent on watching the match between Midoriya and Kirishima out in the arena, though. Pony, as well as Yui, Ibarra, and Setsuna, shared in Ryuko's confusion over their mushroom-themed friend's actions. Only Itsuka looked as if she knew why Kanoko was acting the way that she was, not that any of the other girls saw the look of suspicion on their class rep's face. As she looked to the other 1B girls, Itsuka said, well aside from Kanoko who already left to go watch things in the arena, what do you girls say about us staying here to watch the last match of the semi-final round? The remaining 1B girls all nodded in agreement with Itsuka, and as a group, they all turned their attention to the TV so they could watch the match between Izuku and Kirishima, which just at that moment had begun. Even though the fight just started, some of the 1B girls felt sorry that Bakugo had to miss part of what was clearly shaping up to be an awesome match, one where two of the explosive team's classmates were fighting each other, no less. After all, both of the Wanna boys were already throwing down. Bakugo was sitting on the side of one of the beds in a different section of the infirmary, aside from some minor injuries and a partly dislocated shoulder, all of which was already treated by a recovery girl. The only thing wrong with Bakugo was a bit of dehydration, as if he had spent a few hours walking under a blazing sun. Even though that large bottle of Almide Aid helped a lot, Bakugo was still lacking a lot due to how much of a sweat he worked up. To his surprise, a 28-ounce bottle of green apple-flavored Almide Aid was tossed onto the bed Bakugo was sitting on, lading with a light flump on his right side. Looking over in the direction that the bottle must have come from, Bakugo was surprised to see Itsuka, as well as both Pony and Ibarra, standing there. Yeah, when we heard those medics bring you in, Itsuka began to explain, the girls and I all wanted to get the chance to congratulate you on your win against that villain devil guy. The medics let only the three of us in, and just now. Your friend with the electric quirk said that you like sports drinks, since they help with your quirk to an extent, Pony said, and when Itsuka, Ibarra and I came to check on you here, the three of us passed a vendor who was selling drinks. I got you that Almide Aid since I figured that you must have really gotten tired by the time you won. With a look of mild concern on her face, the half-American girl said, I hope you don't mind green apple. It's my favorite flavor, and I sort of picked it by default when I saw it. Bakugo seemed to be at a bit of a loss for words before he quickly got a hold of himself. Picking up the bottle of Almide Aid, Bakugo calmly said, thanks. As he unscrewed the lid on the bottle, the explosive teen said, since you said you talked to Kaminari, he should have told you that the only flavor I really can't stand is grape. Why grape? Itsuka asked, a curious look on her face, as well as on the faces of both of the other 1B girls that were there. Giving the 1B class rep a dry look, Bakugo said, let's just say that a certain classmate of mine in Wanna turned me off of grape-flavored everything forever. After taking a swig from the sports drink that Pony got for him, Bakugo asked, so, did any of you catch any of the match between Kirishima and Deku? We saw them exchange a few attacks on the TV in the ward where Pony was recovering before the three of us came here to check on you, Itsuka explained, but we have no idea who won that match or if the match is still going on. They're both good, I have to admit, Bakugo remarked, a damn shame that I have to wait here to learn who I'll be fighting in the final round, rather than learn it immediately by watching the match as it's going on. As Bakugo continued to talk to the 1B girls, Recovery Girl came in. Oh, a sports drink like that might actually be a good thing for you right now, young man, the elderly nurse remarked when she saw the green apple Almidate in Bakugo's hand, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I figure that you're good enough to go. Turning around to point her cane towards the doorway that led into the ward that everyone was in, Recovery Girl continued, the last semi-final match was still going on the last I heard about it, so you might be lucky and catch the last of it if you go to the arena quickly. Bakugo nodded in thanks as he got up and followed Itsuka, Ibara and Pony out of the ward. The explosive teen felt very satisfied after he defeated Akuma, and he hoped that said satisfaction was not going to be spoiled by whoever he fought in the final round, not giving it their all. But he had no need to worry, Bakugo knew that Kirishima wouldn't hold back. And Bakugo would be lying to himself if he didn't admit that Izuku had some considerable power. Yeah. Bakugo felt that he was going to be happy with how everything else in the tournament went. He even forgot that his mom was currently dating Deku. Bakugo and the girls from 1B that he was walking with were making their way through the hallways in the stadium as they tried to head back out to the arena. After they made a turn, the group saw Mineta hopping up and down on his right foot as he held his left shin in both hands. Looking over in the direction of the other end of the hallway everyone was in, Itsuka saw Kanoko walking away, clearly in a huff. Seeing the mushroom girl storm off like that also did not escape the notice of Bakugo, Pony and Ibara, so they and Itsuka all confronted Mineta who, given what all they could figure, seemed to be guilty of something. Hey, grapehead, Bakugo began, getting Mineta to look up at him and the 1B girls. Pointing in the direction that Kanoko had stormed off in, Bakugo continued, what the hell did you do to piss her off? I don't know. Mineta replied through hissed pain, when I saw that she was upset and I asked what was wrong, she straight up kicked me in my shin, then turned around and stormed off while muttering something about the result of Midoriya's match with Kirishima. Gingerly setting his left leg back down, the infamous pervert said, I saw the fight myself, and Midoriya won. Folding his arms over his chest, Bakugo scoffed, Feh. So I'm facing Deku in the last round. Wait a minute, Pony said, a curious and mildly confused look on her face, why would Kanoko be so upset that Kirishima lost? Shrugging indifferently, Mineta replied, my guess is that she made a bet with someone that Kirishima would win, and him losing resulting in her losing a lot of money. With a gentle shake of his head, Mineta continued, that's the best thing that I can come up with to explain why she's so upset with Kirishima losing. I can think of another reason, Itsuka thought dryly, while also wanting to have a talk with her mushroom-themed classmate later. The Class 1B rep had a very strong hunch about what was up with the mushroom girl. Looking in the direction that Kanoko stormed off in, Mineta said, you know, it would have been nice if she kicked high enough to make her skirt lift up enough so I could see what she had on underneath. With a dopey, clearly perverted look on his face, Mineta continued, I bet that she has mushroom print pant. Mineta was cut off mid-sentence when Itsuka swung her right foot up and right into Mineta's hidden treasure, scoring a critical hit that sent Mineta sprawling on the cool tile floor of the hallway that they were all in. As Mineta fell to the floor on his knees and the right side of his face, resulting in his rear sticking right up into the air as he covered his little Mineta with both of his hands, the 1B girls and Bakugo all looked at him with mixed expressions. Most were variations of disgust from the girls, although Bakugo had a look of exasperated annoyance. Turning to face Itsuka, Bakugo remarked as his expression softened, that was a nice punt. Have you ever considered playing football? Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support the TALESPINNER69 for writing that awesome fanfic. See you in the next video. Goodbye.